Hello, this is John Hyatt, and this is the sixth edition of Papua Memories. I'm going to continue the story today of the journey that I took with my father and my brothers from Nohon to Sengo in the Mapi boat. So as we were going up the river, we began to see bats. We have bats in Papua, big ones. Fruit bats, and I believe the wingspan can be as much as 3 feet or more. The bodies of the bats are maybe like the size of a small dog or a cat. They're very big. So as we were going along, we began to see them in the trees, and they roost by hanging upside down as bats do. They look like big black watermelons hanging in the trees. They're that big. And there were so many bats in the trees that the branches of the trees were bending down with the weight of the bats because there were thousands of them. They were apparently migrating or something because as the evening drew on, they began to stir around and take flight. And there were so many bats flying through the air that the sky literally turned black and it was dark underneath. So I got the bright idea that I was going to shoot a bat. I had a Crossman BB gun and I pumped it up as hard as I could and pointed it up at this river of bats that was flying across the sky, and I pulled the trigger. Well, a hole opened up in this mass of bats that was flying, and the BB passed through and then it closed back up. So the echolocation of the bats was such that when I shot that BB, they could hear it coming and they got out of the way and the BB passed through and I wasn't going to shoot any bats. So I have no idea why I wanted to shoot a bat, but I did try. So as we went further on down the river, we came to a village and my father told us boys, he said, boys, there's a story going around that this village up ahead killed and ate some people not too long ago. So there's been cannibalism in Papua for, hundreds and thousands of years. There's rivalry between one village and the next. Somebody gets killed from this village and the next village has to take revenge back on them. So there were wars going on between these villages, and when they killed their enemies, they would eat them, and they believed that they would get the magic power and strength of the person who was eaten through that process. So as we were coming up on this village, us boys were worried. This sort of activity was not going on as much when we were there as it had previously. The government sort of discourages this kind of thing, but we were concerned. So us three boys hunkered down in the bow of the boat where our heads were down below the railing, and I took that Crossman BB gun and I pumped it up, and if somebody was coming after me, they were going to lose an eye for sure. So I don't know what I thought I was doing. But the people came out from the village, and as they do, I believe this was an Osmont village, and they came out in their full regalia. So that meant they were wearing feathers, and they had painted themselves, I guess, with lime or whatever white paint that was on their faces and their bodies, and they looked very warlike, and they sing and chant as they paddle, and they beat their drums on the side of the canoe, and if you don't know anything, it's very scary. But they were trying to welcome us with it. They wanted to trade, and they were bringing us food. So the food that they were bringing us was snakes. When they got up next to the boat, we could see that the bottom of the canoe was covered with snakes that were tied up head to tail. and I guess that they would eat them by, putting them in the fire that way and cooking them. But my dad decided not to indulge, and so we did not buy any snakes. I think that we may have bought some turtles from them, though. We did eat turtle meat on that journey, so I think he might have gotten the turtles at that village, and so we had some fresh turtle meat to go with our food that night. But it was a very interesting trip, and we had some unusual experiences, and it's very memorable for us boys.